This is the voice of the New York Football Giants, Bob Papa, and you are listening to the best throughout Europe, the Big Blue UK and Ireland podcast.
Come on, the fishy people. Welcome back, Giants fans, to the latest edition of the Big Blue UK Ireland podcast. As always, we are proudly in association with Andy's Man Club. Let's remember, it is okay to talk. And tonight we are 75% British, 25% Irish. But as always, we are 100% Giants. And it's the day after roster cutdowns. We're here to bring you all the latest news on who made the 53, who didn't, what changes have happened since then, and so on and so on. And those changes are coming in thick and fast. We've had a few in the last sort of 15 minutes as well, so it's been a pretty busy day. Plus we'll be looking back at our third and final preseason game from Thursday night against the Patriots, and to do all that I'm joined this evening by Shane, Kev and Craig. Boys, how are we doing?
Yeah, it's good to be back on. I think it's safe to say me and Kev have probably sorted out our differences since we've both been on together for the last few weeks, so buried the hatchet as we go into the new season.
As we always do every end of pre-season for the start of the new season. You're talking about the 53 cutdown yesterday. I'm surprised no one's mentioned the big news in the NFL with old Taylor Swift and Mr. Kelsey announcing their engagement. No?
Get out.
That was Dan's tangent for tonight.
I thought I'd just get it in there early so we can get it in and get it out. I was actually at a festival. The big feast was past weekend. And obviously no other NFL fans there. But one of the girls with us, Michelle, was actually getting into the NFL now, because she's a huge Taylor Swift fan. And we were there talking for football for ages just because of Taylor Swift. There you go.
Oh, good God.
I mean, that was a quick mention of it, wasn't it? Before Shane, are you repping the NWO? I know what it is.
You could.
I know what it is.
I don't know if my camera's going to mess up because this iPad auto tracking shit.
He's got the Giants Nation for life. We're now just going to stare at Shane's pecs for the rest of the episode. No, it's good. It's good to be on. I'm off on holiday. Tail end of next week. So this is like my penultimate episode for a few weeks. So it's a bit strange, like getting into the season and then just disappearing. But it's been one hell of a preseason, and it's just been so much fun. It's weird, isn't it? Like, this might be... We are generally, Shane excluded, a positive bunch around here.
Whoa.
And
hang on. Let's get that knife out my back.
The shades being thrown already, and we're only 3.5 minutes in.
Did we forget who made some of the bold predictions? I mean, Giants top 3 points differential.
To be fair, I was expecting you to come on with a conductor's hat tonight, getting it in there early. But this is like almost the most pumped I've been for a pre-season ever, and I am one of the more positive ones. So I'm really, really looking forward to this season and getting into the team now. We know the team that are going to carry us through at least the beginning, potentially par 1 or 2 cuts and changes.
Mm-hmm. And here's a question that's still thrown in. What happens if we go unbeaten in Craig's absence?
I mean, I think you have to stay off air, Craig, for a bit. You can be in the background producing still, but I mean, we can't get jinx in this shit. Especially if we win in your absence and the first episode you come back with Lewis, I'll be like, nah, Craig, you got to take a break and go on holiday again.
You can
go back to America. Stay there. There.
We'll get a GoFundMe together with all the viewers and that. Also, am I missing something? What's with the fishies emoji? Am I missing something here?
Grimsby called the fishy people.
Oh, I didn't. I thought there was an inside joke. I was like, why do we keep getting fishies as emojis? Have I missed something?
Yeah,
it's like one of those weird streamer things where it's like, fishes in the emojis or fishes in the chat.
Yeah.
But just quickly, just add to what Craig was saying, like, talking about cutting down to 53-man roster yesterday, like getting excited for this preseason games. Like, when was the last time when there was genuine, like, good players at the end of our roster that we were like, oh, I can't believe they're getting cut because they could actually play for us. Normally it's a case of, oh, well, we can name 35, 40, and it's like the rest of them are like, yeah, whatever. Like, they're not really NFL caliber players, but you're looking now, it's a real, that back end of the roster is showing real depth for the first time. And like, you have to kind of get excited about the way the roster is constructed as of now, although prefix that with there will be tinkerings as we've been sort of looking on X and stuff this evening, players moving around with the waivers coming in and stuff. But it's definitely a roster that I've been more excited about than I have been for a wee while.
Yeah, you know what? It's been a preseason full of positivity, and even sort of into see from the draft onwards, the whole sort of excitement and buzz around the team has been pretty damn good, really. And it's so nice to see, and it's so refreshing to have that. And it's, like I said, I don't remember the last time you had that sort of feeling going into a season. Obviously, you want to sort of temper those expectations a little bit because the proof will be in the pudding come week one. Come next weekend. A tough opponent off the bat in Washington, and obviously we'll get into that next week. But it's not an easy start to the season. So I think we've got to be realistic, but at the same time we've got to have that little bit of optimism about us because we've looked good in the preseason, and again, preseason is what it is, but it's not been too bad, and it's been a good watch, and we've pissed all over our opponents, really, haven't we? So it's been a good start to Jackson Dart's reign in New York, and it's been a good start to the 2025 season as well. So it's looking positive, put it that way.
Can I go off on a tangent now?
Go on before we get going.
So, look, I just want to get your guys' thoughts on this. So, I like to throw spanners in the works, as you like to know. Obviously, Jackson Dart's had a pretty good pre-season showing. Would we agree with that? Like, there's potential and there's promise there. But is it being overhyped a little bit? Because when you compare stats to a previous rookie quarterback that we drafted in the first round and their pre-season stats, they're very, very similar. Now, obviously, I'm not saying they're the same player, but it's just one of them where I'm starting to think, are we kind of overevaluating what Jackson Dart has done in pre-season, facing vanilla defenses? What he's faced in pre-season is not what he will face. I mean, you can imagine the first snap he takes in the NFL, depending on kind of how experienced the defensive coordinator is, it's going to be some stuff that's drawn up that he's going to have never seen before in college or in pre-season. And like I say, I'm not trying to compare Jackson Dart and Daniel Jones. Like I say, you look at their stats. I've got them here because I'm a well prepared podcaster. Daniel Jones in pre-season in his rookie year, which would have been 2019. 29 for 34, 416 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Jackson Dart, 32 for 47, 372 yards, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. So just want your guys' thoughts. Is a Jackson Dart pre-season hype maybe been a little bit too much, or is there reasons that we should be hyped for it?
Guys?
I think it's a bit of both. I think you nailed it on the head with 2 words there: vanilla defenses. He's been able to go out and go up against defenses that are pretty much playing the same look. There's no real exoticness to it. He's playing mostly against second stringers, if not third stringers. I just think people need to temper expectations. They came out today that chronic Giants hater Michael Lombardi had said that he wouldn't be starting Russell Wilson over Jackson Dart under any circumstance, and thinks it's a massive mistake if we do so. And it's like, let's just throw Jackson Dart to the wolves and see how that turns out. Look how it happened with Bryce Young and some of the others. We're looking at a rookie quarterback here that we are hoping will be the future. And I just want us to go down the same route that they did with Mahomes. Just keep him on the sideline, keep him ticking over. We've picked up a few people on the practice squad who he's pretty familiar with, so we can just keep him going. He's got two, pretty damn good mentors, very different mentors, but still two very good mentors in Wilson and Winston. So I do think you're right, Shane. I think overhyped is the right word there. Was it good? Absolutely. Was it Super Bowl or bust already? No. And we just need to temper ourselves a bit.
Yeah, definitely. And just to piggyback off that, I think also stats, not all stats are created equal. It's a lot about the eye test as well. And someone who I have a lot of time for, Dan Orlovsky, he does some cut-ups and some breakdowns and stuff like that. And I just watched a couple of his sort of analysis of Jackson Dart. And it's more a case of not necessarily the stats and stuff like that, but his progressions, the way he manipulates the pocket, and just sort of like always keeping his eyes downfield, looking to be able to pass the ball instead of dropping his eyes and running at the first sign of danger. So it's more a case of like, how's he looked? And he doesn't look phased. And that was my worry. Sometimes they come in, the rookie quarterbacks, and you can tell that, the lights are just a little bit too bright for them, even in preseason. But Jackson Dart's come in and he's sort of just overhyped. Yes, I do agree with that. But when have we had a chance to be hyped about things? So of course there's going to be a little element of being overhyped when we see someone coming in. And for me, he just ticks the boxes. Has he come in and is he reading defenses? Yes. Is he making pre-snap adjustments? Yes. Is he going to his third read? Yes. It's just ticking boxes for me that, to be honest, like a lot of the boxes just were smashed up on the floor for a couple of years now. So just that be able to see these boxes, high and bright and being ticked off is just something to be excited about. But I agree with you, Shane. Yes, we should sort of temper expectations and we should start Russell Wilson going this season. He's been an absolute star on and off the field that everyone's been reporting. He's that sort of leader in the locker room, someone to learn from. So I'd rather wait and start him a little bit too late than start him too early when he's not quite ready and ruin his confidence.
I mean, exactly that. And like so you look back at Daniel Jones' rookie year, 2019. I think we went unbeaten in that preseason. I think we went 4-0 in that preseason. And obviously Eli starts the season, 3 games in, he's benched, and the rest is history. And it wasn't the best start to the season. So, it's going to be a difficult start. The opponents we've got in the first, 6 weeks or so, it's not going to be easy. So, I don't see, I don't see why it's not bad to have that little bit of optimism about it, but at the same time, like you said, you've got to have that sort of just let's be realistic. If we can get through the 6 weeks at 500, fantastic. That's a solid start to the year, and I'd be happy with that. And yeah, obviously there is a lot of hype about Jackson Dart at the moment. What doesn't help that hype is that there's so much extra on social media about him and sort of insight into his personal life, and there's videos across all Twitter, YouTube, you name it, of him and his personal life and what he's like sort of behind the helmet sort of thing. So you've already got a bit of an insight into his world, and he seems like a really cool guy, but so it's almost like that hype that's helping to drive that hype about him. And I think come next weekend, the first time the offense takes the field, Russell Wilson on the field under center, and I think everything will sort of like settle down, and we'll just go into the game like play the game we want to play. Whether or not that comes out in a win, I don't know, but I think I think overhyped is a good word for it, Shane. I agree with you on that.
Shane, do you think it potentially hits quite as hard if it wasn't for the fact that Daniel Jones was so poor? Like if we'd come off of a quarterback that was maybe average and then gone on to what we've had, do you think Jackson Dart gets as much hype?
Probably not, because I'm probably going to be a little bit brutal when I say this, but it's kind of like after the last few years, anything's an upgrade. Like, you know, I don't think I don't think there's much that Jackson Dart can do where you're going to turn around and say, "Fucking hell, Daniel Jones wouldn't have done that." Like, I just think that, like, you know, and I think whether we like it or not, and whether it's fair or unfair, I think there's going to be probably a lot of comparisons between the two at different points with Dart and Daniel Jones, which, you know, I can understand in one hand, but in another hand, you know, they're two completely different players. But I just think for me, like, it was just the thought that, you know, Daniel Jones, Jackson Dart, they both had similar stats. And let's be honest, Daniel Jones' start of his Giants career, there was optimism there. There was hope there. You know, I remember we might have been last year or year before, we said what was one of the best individual performances that we've all nominated, we've all seen since being a Giants fan. I've not been a Giants fan as long as you guys, and I said probably Daniel Jones' rookie debut against the Bucks, because, you know, that performance led you to think, yeah, that there is some here, and obviously it tapered off. So, you know, hopefully, like you guys have said, he's not rushed in. It will be interesting to see what happens on game day. Number one, whether he dresses or not. And number two, if for any reason Wilson has to miss any times, does Dart get that QB2 job, or does Brian Dable and Joe Shane kind of say to each other and the ownership, trust the process. We're not throwing Dart out there. It's going to be Jameis. He's the experienced one. We don't want to derail Jackson's progress from when we've drafted him to where we're at now by throwing him in unfairly and him having a bad game and etc. from there.
Yeah, exactly. And let's not forget as well, James has come off the back of being a backup in Cleveland, where he didn't perform too badly either. So, you know, there is that sort of, do you go with the experienced head or do you go with the young, you know, exciting rookie? It's almost like, yeah, that'll be an interesting one if it comes to that. You know, at the moment, Russell Wilson's QB1, and I hope he stays that way for the entire season, because that shows we're playing well, and he's doing a great job, and Jackson Dart can sit there, no pressure on him, and just learn. And I think that's the ideal situation for all of us, really, is that he can just sit there for a year and just learn. You know, even going into next year, just sit there and learn. Because, you know, Jordan Love did it behind Aaron Rodgers for how many years, and look what he's doing now. You know, he's impressing a lot, so it's not a bad thing at all. You don't want to force it you don't want to force it too early if you don't have to. And I think Daniel Jones was probably forced too early when he came in, and yeah, it was a great first game against the Bucks, but after then, good God, it was awful. So, you know, you gotta be careful with them. Obviously, if you are watching on YouTube, X or Twitch or Facebook or whatever platform you're on, get involved in the comments as you already have been doing this evening. It's good to see so many of you in there this evening, so keep it up. And by all means, keep throwing in the fishy comments, because I know United are shit. It's all good. I don't mind.
Sleepers just told me it's breaking news that Grimsby lead by 2 goals at the break.
Yeah, they do. They do. It's 2-0 at half-time. So, yeah, I know United are shit. It is what it is. There we go. Whatever. And give us, you know, get those questions in, get those comments in, and let us know what you think of the 53-man roster as it stands as well. And before we get into the Patriots game, it was revealed, I think, a couple of days ago now, Dexter Lawrence positioned at number 17 in the NFL's top 100 rankings. He was ranked number 24 last year. One question, boys, is he underrated? Shane?
Yes and no. I think for me, I don't think I'd have had him inside the top 10, because I think the position itself is underrated. I'd have had him in and around the top 10, kind of maybe 12th. I think would have been a bit more of a fair representation than 17. He's rated out the best defensive tackle in football right now. But I also appreciate that, you know, the quarterbacks and the cornerbacks and the wide receivers are the sexy positions, and I'm obviously going to get the attention more than a 6'4", 330 pound nose tackle is.
Yeah, you're not wrong, Kev. Underrated.
I think he is, and I agree with Shane that, and I've said it before in a previous podcast, that if it wasn't for the position he plays, he'd be a lot higher because of his actual ability. But, you know, the nose tackle interior line isn't a sexy position, so other people will get that. I think everyone knows now that he is like the man at that position. Like the interior, he is like, if not number one, 1-2. So I think like, we love him. And that's all that matters.
Unsexy position coupled with an unsexy team. That's the problem for Dex, is because he plays for the Giants and we're not rated amongst the league. A lot of play, because it's voted for by the players, isn't it?
Yep.
A lot of players will forget about the Giants. They will, unless you played us last year and got absolutely ragdolled by him. You won't remember. You probably won't remember him. Not in the moment.
People that got ragdolled by him.
Yeah, but not in the moment. I don't think. Like a lot of people remember Neighbours because he broke records last year, franchise records, and would have broken NFL records if it wasn't for Bowers. So a lot of people remember him, which is why he placed on the top 100 as a rookie. I think he was still underrated, personally. But yeah, the problem with Dex is he plays for us, and couple that with the defensive tackle, nose tackle side of things, and you're right.
I think as well, it was disappointing that three of the players in the interview, 3 of the 5, I want to say, were all ex-Giants.
Ex-Giants, yeah.
I don't no disrespect. I don't care what McKinney, Williams, and Love have got to say. Like, I want to hear about players that have only ever played against him rather than playing with him.
Lane Johnson.
There was Lane Johnson. There was who was the running back? He played for the Eagles. There was a running back that they interviewed as well.
Lions guy, isn't he? Plays for Lions, or played for the Lions as well.
I can't remember. There was a running back and Lane Johnson. That was the only 2 opposition players that they interviewed. Then you had like obviously Bobby Owen, Neighbours. Okay, get your teammates' thoughts, but getting your ex-teammates, I was like, come on, you can get. Surely there's someone else that you could interview, like.
Yeah,
exactly. And looking at obviously it's now sort of in the 11 to 20 bracket. Obviously, they've only announced up to, I think it's up to 15, isn't it? 2 places behind Dexter Lawrence is Jalen Hurts at number 19. Super Bowl winning quarterback Jalen Hurts at number 19. So it's almost like, okay, like, 17 is a great spot for him. But then you also look ahead of Dex, and at 16 you got Fred Warner, and at 15 you got Jared Goff. So, and they both had pretty good seasons. So, and also let's not forget as well, Dex did only play 12 games last season, and to be rated as number 17 after playing only 12 games. Let's where would he place if he played all 17? And let's hope he does that this season.
Surely that's an argument for him being higher as well.
Yeah, it is. It is. If he played all 17 games, where would he be? Top 10? Would he be Defensive Player of the Year? Because if he was, then he'd definitely be in the top 10. Fair play to Dex. And I think he is fully deserved his spot in the top 100 for the second year in a row. It's just, what more can we say about him that hadn't been said already, apart from the fact he's just an absolute wrecking ball. And we love him. All right, then on to the third and final preseason game from Thursday night. Obviously, the Giants won the preseason, as everybody's saying. Didn't just win; we won the preseason. We're preseason champions. Yeah, it's like lifting the Audi Cup in the preseason or something like that, isn't it?
Did you see? Sorry, that I was kidding because I sent it to my mate. So I was like, "What a load of bullshit." Fox NFL gave preseason defensive rookie of the year to Abdul Carter. Have you ever heard such bullshit that preseason matches are getting of the awards? Like, what's that all about? You're on mute.
But also, how many snaps did he have? You can't give someone preseason rookie of the year on like 13 snaps or something stupid like that. Like, have a word.
I just said it, and I just said to my mate, like, what a load of fucking nonsense this is.
Contribution award, isn't it?
It's like getting a man of the match in a preseason game, isn't it? It's like, it doesn't really matter. It's like winning a trophy in the preseason. It doesn't really matter. Like really? Is that an actual thing that ESPN have done?
It was Fox.
Fox.
I'll forward it to our group
nonsense.
Absolute woke nonsense. Bloody hell. Wow. Wow. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, we won the preseason. Perfect 3-0 record. Beat the Patriots on Thursday 42-10. Finished the preseason outscoring our opponents 107-47. And first time we've gone unbeaten in the preseason since 2019. It's only the 7th time in franchise history we've done it as well. So it's not a bad showing in the preseason for the Giants. And obviously in the game as well, it was the Tommy Cutlet show in the second half. He went 17 of 20 for 198 yards and 3 touchdowns on 3 consecutive drives. Obviously Jackson Dart and Jameis Winston played in the first half, also threw for a score each in that half, and also Jameis does what Jameis does. He also decided to throw an interception as well, because that's what Jameis does. And I said it marked only the 7th time in franchise history that we've gone unbeaten in the preseason. But back to the game then, and with no Aaron this week, obviously it's over to Kev and to Craig to cover offense. So who stood out for you boys and why?
Well, for me, say stood out. I've chosen Jalen Hyatt. And the reason I've chosen him is because I wanted to quickly discuss him on the podcast. So his stats this past week were, what was it? 6 targets, 3 receptions, 38 yards, 1 touchdown, with 2 drops. Now, in my opinion, the drops, they were difficult catches, but at this level, these are the type of catches, if you're in a roster bubble, you really need to be bringing in to show that you're more than just someone who can speed, run himself open, and catch open balls downfield. And Jalen Hyatt is such a polarizing player at the moment. I know, because he came in from Tennessee, 2022 draft. He was an All-American, Biletnikoff Award winner, 67 receptions for 1,200 yards and 15 touchdowns. The Giants traded up in the draft to go get him. He had 23 receptions, 373 yards in his first season. But last season, he had a bit of a sophomore slump. He had just 8 catches for 62 yards and no touchdowns. And he hasn't really been involved in this preseason, really got the meat of his action in this last game. He has gained a bit of weight as well. He's put some solid muscle on. Wilson seems to really like his skill set and like what he brings to the table. So much so that he flew him out individually to work out with him in San Diego, I think it was, to really sort of get the partnership going or get the chemistry going. This season, though, I think it's a bit of make and break. I think obviously he made the team. He's only going into his 3rd year in that rookie contract. And, the team, obviously, the top brass obviously sees something in him. Hoping that, with Russell Wilson coming in and his moon ball or something like that and working with him, you might actually get something out of him this season. But like I said, it's such a make or break season for him this year, because after the season, if he's not putting up the numbers to say that he's a consistent player going forward, then, his time here might be done. He's starting to move inside. He's starting to move inside as well as not just being on the outside. But I want to see the attitude as well from him, because he quite obviously is not one of the top 3 receivers. The top 3 receivers are quite obviously now Neighbors, Slayton, and Wan'Dale Robinson in the slot. There was that sort of moment last season when he was said, if you're not going to, I don't know how tongue in cheek it was, or just a bit of frustration walking off the practice field, where he said, if you're not going to play me, trade me. But again, I just want to highlight Hyatt for the simple fact is, looking now at our 53-man roster, that the wide receiver depth at the moment is very light, in my opinion. And we'll get on to the actual names and numbers in a minute. But the opportunity is here for him to really take it by a scruff of the neck and do something this season. So I just want to highlight him in the sense that, he got a couple of catches. He got his touchdown in this preseason game. We want to see more from you. Show that potential, that why we drafted you, that you showed in college football. Try and show it on Sundays.
Before Shane throws me under the bus, yes, it does say Jets at the bottom and not the Patriots. I know your game, Shane.
Oh, shit, yeah. I've only just noticed that. Fair play for admitting it. 10 out of 10 for integrity.
Oh, I had to beat him to the punch. I knew that was coming. So I originally was going to choose Greg Dulcich, but we're going to speak about him obviously a bit later when we talk about cuts. So I kind of pivoted, and I was speaking with Aaron earlier on this week because I said to him, "Oh, you're not on this week. Is there a player you want me to highlight on your behalf, seeing as you've been doing offense?" And he said, "Oh, Marcus Bowe. I've been really, really impressed with him." So as soon as I realised that obviously Dulcich was a no-go, decided to move across to Marcus Bowe. Now, with him, I think the biggest compliment that you can kind of say is that if you went, unless you were looking at his snaps, you wouldn't have noticed him on the field. And that's a big compliment considering he started that final preseason game against the Patriots and has seen a lot of action. He had 35 snaps at left tackle, taking his total preseason snap count to 128. He played right tackle in game 1, the majority of right tackle in game 2, but he did have a little bit of left in there as well, and then predominantly left tackle. And bear in mind, he's never played left tackle before either, like not at all during college. There was never a moment where he lined up at left tackle, which was impressive. He only allowed 2 hurries and 1 quarterback hit against the Patriots. And I don't know about you, but they were throwing everything they had at him. Power rush, ball rush, outside, inside. They were trying any kind of alignment that they could to try and knock him down. And he stood up to it all. I don't think you can say he dominated. I think if you look at a lot of his snaps, there were stalemates. He got kind of, just 2 big blokes smashing each other and kind of just cancelling each other out. But even when he was beat, he did enough. It wasn't like a certain other tackle who is a little bit like a revolving door and just kind of lets them go past. He at least, chipped them a little bit or gave his quarterback enough time to be able to scramble away or throw the ball away or get a quick option out there. And didn't commit a single penalty across the entirety of pre-season, which I think is a massive plus, especially with all the pre-snap penalties that we're known for on the offensive line. I think progression from Marcus Bowe is going to be one of the biggest takeaways from this preseason, where the Giants can turn around and say, you know what, he fell, because I know that Shane, both you and Kev were really high on him before the draft, and we were clambering for that pick to be Marcus Bowe. Just very quickly, I guess, would you call that a steal already from what we've seen? Would you turn around and say he definitely should have been drafted higher?
Yeah, 100%.
Absolutely. I mean, you can kind of see the only knock on him was him against Pyre, but you could see he had the feet, the technique to play at this level, and he's kind of showing that now. And like you said, right side and left side. I mean, he doesn't have to be excellent. He doesn't have to be Andrew Thomas level, but I really feel that he can be a good quality starting tackle in this league. And oh my God, it'd be nice to have one of those that we drafted.
Tangent time.
Here we go.
Do you think if Marcus Bowe keeps this up, that there is going to be no real need to extend Jermaine Illuminor in 12 months' time? Sorry, Craig, if I was going to nick something you was about to say.
No, it's a thought process I've had. It's a thought process because I don't know about you, but I think Jermaine wants to be paid. And I don't think we're in the position to be paying a lot of money for our left tackle and our right tackle at the same time. I would be willing to say if his progression continues, he is the starting right tackle next season. And I might even throw out an extra little cheeky bold prediction in that if Andrew Thomas goes down, I think we might see Bowe before we see Hudson.
There it is. 100% agree with all of that. He's the type of player who I thought could be a starting caliber tackle in the league. Like I said, Illuminor's come in and shown that he is a good tackle in the league. He's 30, 39, I think he is. So he wants one last payday. And he got very cheap deal from us. Was it 2 years, 14 or something? Like very, very,
Something like that, yeah.
very reasonable deal. And seeing what all the interior offensive line have got this past off season, he's going to want nice tackle money next year, and we won't build a vest, nor we should. So I 100% think that both. I mean, this is the blueprint, is it? Is it not? Find someone who has the traits and abilities you want to develop, and then develop them behind a starting caliber player. Let the starting caliber player who's coming to the tail end of his career sort of go off to get paid in free agency, and then have this guy come in. I mean, I don't want to say their name, but the Eagles have built quite a good roster over the years by doing exactly this.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what, as well, like the fact we've got JMS in the middle as well. Obviously it's sort of the jury's still out with him. But imagine having Andrew Thomas on the left, Bo on the right, potentially Evan Neal at guard, and JMS in the middle. There's 4 drafted talents on the New York Giants offensive line there. I know Evan Neal's a bit of a out there one, but still, even having 3 talents on the offensive line that the Giants have drafted, and then potentially go for a guard next year.
And the biggest picture you're all overlooking, Andrew Thomas stays fit. Boom, we got a left tackle. Marcus Bow comes in. Boom, we got a right tackle. You know what that means, don't you, boys? No tackling round 1.
Yeah. I mean, we can only hope, we can only wish that
no
happens.
Tackling round 1 makes Shane a happy boy. Keep writing it on the chalkboard.
Manifest it, it will happen. Manifest it, it will happen. But yeah, I mean, I think Marcus Bow has been a really solid addition to the offensive line, and I think the world's his oyster at the moment, and it's a really sort of looks like it could be a really promising future for him. And you just want to like just see that development carry on, and you just want to see him really make that position is. And I agree with you, Craig. I think this time next year he's our starting right tackle, because there's no need to pay Jermaine Illuminor big money, because we've already got that guy there. So yeah, I'm loving the shout out for Marcus Bow. I think he is a steal, and I think he will be a steal as well.
And just to add something quickly, very quickly, just like the offensive line only gave up 1 sack on last Thursday night as well, and it wasn't even their fault. It was more of a Jackson Dart was trying to make a play, and just the play broke down a wee bit, and these things happen. And it was credited with a sack because he just didn't get back to the line of scrimmage. But the offensive line as a whole, backup starters and backups, I thought I've played, again, ticking boxes. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to go through the whole roster in a minute once we've finished talking about this game. But yeah, ticking boxes. Exactly that. All right, should we move on to the defensive side? Yeah, let's do it. Defense, obviously, me and Shane, or should I just say Shane this week? Because I will admit, I've not actually watched the game yet. I know, shocking, absolutely shocking. And hands up, I apologise. However, work has been ridiculously busy this week, and I just haven't had the time. So, apologies for that. But Shane has nominated 2 players, and one on my behalf, to talk about. So, no shades this week, Shane?
No shade. We're going to save them. We're going to save them for the big boy moments in the week on Sunday. But yeah, so the 2 players I'd try to go for was both at the same position, Cordell Flott and Nick Jones. Obviously, I had Cordell Flott last week. This week, as you can see on screen there, sorry, just mumbling my words like I just necked a vodka. He had just 7 snaps, but recorded a 39.6 quarterback rating when targeted. This also led to him scoring highest graded Giants player, 91.7 defense. Now, the reason I've chose Cordell Flott again is tied in with that, and also tied in with the fact that Deontay Banks didn't play any snaps on Thursday night for the 2nd week in a row. For me, I think Cordell Flott's at CB2. I think it's his position week 1. Whether the Giants are thinking like that, I don't think there's a depth chart come out since they've cut down to 53 at the minute. I don't know when that's due to kind of be released either. But I think, we've Banks kind of, them being chopping and changing during training camp. Obviously, Flop missed preseason week 1 and Banks played the majority of the snaps, but then Banks not dressing for the last 2 weeks. I think for me personally, this means that Cordell Flott's got that CB2 locked up, and it's kind of going to be a case of week 1, go out there, son. It's your job to lose now, kind of thing. And it'd be interesting to see how long he can kind of hold Banks off for, and if he can really step up to that mantle of, covering not just wide receiver 2s, because I want to turn around and say that when Paulson Adebo's been on the field, I believe he's been staying on the same side of the field constantly. So inevitably, Cordell Flott is going to be facing wide receiver 1s at some point this season. More than likely, week 1. You've got a couple of good wide receivers in Washington in a few weeks' time as well. So, that's going to be the main one to see him. And then the reason I chose Nick Jones is because I think it ties in with Cordell Flott. Now, Nick Jones made the 53 this past week. He graded not great with a 59.8 defensive grade, but he did have a 76.8 tackling grade, which was one of the highest from that game. He was also targeted. So I'm on my iPhone, so it's a little bit smaller to see. Targeted just the once, and he gave up the 1 reception, but it was only for 4 yards, and he had just the the 0 missed tackles as well, which is something that I think is important for cornerbacks. Now, the reason why I think he ties into Cordell Flott is Cordell Flott predominantly played slot. Now he's going to be on the outside. Nick Jones is going to be the slot 2 underneath Drew Phillips, and I think that's one of the reasons why he's made the roster, because of Cordell Flott showing that he's got enough and that he's been given that CB2 role, that Nick Jones has been the biggest beneficiary from that, and he's now going to be the understudy, so to speak, for Drew Phillips in that slot role. So, I thought those 2 players have kind of they linked in with each other, with Flott making that CB2 and Jones stepping into Flott's former role. So that was the reason why I chose them 2 as kind of their the standout players for the game. So I think it had the direct benefit onto what players made the 53 and what players didn't.
Nice. And like Cordell Flott, like I think he's been for me he's been a surprise this preseason. And I think, like you said, Shane, I think he's made that CB2 position his. I really do, and I'm really glad for him. I'm really happy for him that he has. I'm disappointed that Banks has not really done much in the way of preseason this year, but considering that role was up for grabs and he's not really grabbed it with both hands. But look, Flott's. He's proven that he's good enough in the preseason, so let's give it to him in the regular season, and let's see what he can do. We've spoken about him for, previously on this show before. We think that, we like him, and we think he's a serviceable cornerback. But let's see what he does when he's thrust into that starting role. And I think I'm excited by it because he's had a really good preseason. Anything else, Adam?
Well, I was just going to say, as soon as I saw the 53, Nick Jones making the 53, my first thought was exactly what Shane just said. That Flott has kind of won the starting job. Therefore, he can't be backup outside corner and backup slot. So when I saw Nick Jones, I was like, yep, Flott, they're going to go with Flott. And to be honest, he's shown more productivity. He's shown more consistency, which is kind of frustrating because you want a first-round cornerback to work out, don't you? But hopefully, Banks isn't done yet, and this will spur him on.
This is what I was going to say as well. It's like, what does this mean for Tay Banks? Like, because at the moment it doesn't look good for him.
Calling it now, that depth chart will say or. It will say or.
Whose name will be first, though?
Banks. I think it will be Banks or Flott, and then we'll find out who starts the game.
Yeah, I can see that happening. And I think I think it's going to be up in the air, but I definitely think Flott's sort of just ahead at this point.
I think you've got to
light a fire
under Deontay Banks as well. and kind of like make him real. Because let's not lie. There's times last year that his desire or work ethic or whatever you want to call it was questioned in a couple of games, and maybe he should have been benched at times, and maybe this regime's now turning around and saying, you know what, that was last year, it's gone, but we're not going to take that shit this year. That if you're going to be out there, it's because you've earned the right. You've not earned the right. So what it should do now is it should like fire under Deontay Banks and make him realise, there's a player on this team that was taken 7th overall in the first round who looks like he's going to be on his way out. You can go that way, or you can go the way of a different form of first round player. Let's say Dexter Lawrence, who when Lawrence was drafted, he didn't have a great rookie year. There was a lot of Giants fans that were questioning him, to be honest with you. So, you can turn around and say to Banks, you can pick which former first rounder you want to be. You could be the one that's gone at the end of your rookie year, or you can be the one who, not saying you're going to be one of the best at his position, but, at least get that second contract and solidify yourself.
Yeah, massively. And it's just, I don't want to sort of preempt it, but I don't know if I see that sort of turnaround in Banks at the moment. I don't know if I see that change in his mentality, or that change in his behavior as such as well. Like in his, he really needs to do a bit of sort of maturing, I think, as well. He's in a lot of what we saw last year from him was quite sort of naive and immature, and we really need to see a different side to him. I don't know if we see that from him or not at this point. So yeah, it remains to be seen, and there's no doubt there's going to be a lot of talking points on this throughout the season. It's going to roll on, and obviously, touch wood, you hope there is sort of that injuries don't play a part in any one of these guys. 2025 season, and you hope that it is just a constant battle throughout the year, and we see sort of who is the best, who puts out the best product on the field and earns that role. And you don't hope for someone being put into that role as a sort of a result of somebody else having a sort of a serious or season-ending injury. So I'm excited for the battle at corner during the season. It's going to be a good one. Let's face
facts. We'll probably talk about this week one review. This topic's going to come up, like you say, multiple times, and it's probably going to start in week one, if we're honest.
No doubt. Yeah, no doubt. It wouldn't surprise me.
What's your thoughts on a first round corner, Shane?
I like them. Very rarely work out, do they? Let's get a first round wide receiver, opposite neighbours.
Now we're talking. That'd be good. Right then. On to the roster. Obviously, yesterday saw the league deadline for teams to finalise their squads for the upcoming season. Cuts started as early as Friday afternoon. 37 players needed releasing from the team. There were a few surprise names that were waived, a few surprise names that made the roster. But we're going to go through it as its entirety, as it sits right now. That's a caveat to this. As it sits now at 9:20 p.m. on the 27th of August. This is how our 53-man roster looks. It's no surprise. We're going to start off with quarterback. It's no surprise, really, when it's announced that Tommy Cutlets was being released. He did himself a world of good, I thought, in that game against the Patriots. And I expect him, obviously, I did expect him to be picked up by another team. And lo and behold, he's gone and signed with the team just up the road in Boston and with the New England Patriots. And whilst obviously he's signing for, can you class them as a rival? It's still that New York-Boston rival, isn't it? So you can class them as a rival. Although he signed there, the fact that he came in and did such a great job as a rookie, and got us some wins in the 2023 season, and the whole sort of Tommy DeVito mania came about, and I wish him nothing but the best of luck. You never know, we might see him back in Giants blue at some point, but as I say, once a Giant, always a Giant, and I think we all here wish him the best of luck in his future career, whether that's in Boston with the Patriots or whether that's somewhere else. But it gives him the best opportunity to get a job. And the three quarterbacks in front of him on our roster, we're always going to push him out. And we said from day one, as soon as we drafted Jackson Dart, really, it's a case of, well, we've got Wilson, we've got Winston, we've now got Dart. Where's room for Tommy Cutlets? And that room just isn't there, unfortunately. So, yeah, there are three quarterbacks. Obviously, Russell Wilson, James Winston, and Jackson Dart. No surprises there, boys, really, is there? No, didn't think so.
No, not really. One thing I'll add about DeVito is like he was claimed off waivers, so like he didn't decide to go there. Like he had no choice. He got claimed, and apparently I did read somewhere that the Patriots tried to get him when he came out of the draft undrafted. They tried to sign him onto their practice squad, and he chose the Giants over them. So they've had their eye on him for a while.
Yep. I just want to go back to a question asked earlier by Tim. It was asked kind of just as we were tailing off from the previous quarterback conversation. But do we think that people are underestimating Russell Wilson and what he can actually give to this team?
I think the wider NFL's potentially underestimated him. I think the Athletic did their QB rankings a few weeks ago, and I think he might have been like tier 4 or tier 5 now, like 26th best quarterback or 23rd best quarterback. Let's face facts. He's on the decline. He's not the Russell Wilson that played in Seattle kind of 10 years ago when they won a Super Bowl. At the end of the day, he's on his third team in 3 years for a reason. But you've just got to hope that there's kind of something left, and I believe that there's enough there left to mean that we're not going to have to thrust Jackson Dart into the starting lineup too early in the season, and we'll only do it when we feel that Jackson's ready and or the season's potentially gone.
Yeah, I actually, I think he has been underestimated. I think he has got a little bit more left in the tank. He's not the Russell Wilson, the Seahawks who won a Super Bowl, of course. But I think sort of like the situations weren't great for him in Denver or Pittsburgh. I'm kind of hoping that our offensive line can hold up enough for him this season to be able to get the ball out. And he's shown in a very limited amount of snaps, of course, but he has shown that, he's still able to read defenses, get the ball out on time. And he still got a beautiful moon ball with that pass he had to Bo Collins, who really should have got himself over that line for that touchdown. But I do think he's been underestimated. Would you take 21st quarterback in the league this season for the first half of the season? I think you would after what we've been seeing. But I think he'll surprise a few people, definitely.
Absolutely, and like Holty says, great point there. Agent Russell Wilson is an upgrade on Daniel Jones for sure. I'm sure Indianapolis will enjoy Daniel Jones as a starting quarterback just as much as we did over the last few years. Good luck, Indy. But yeah, you can't compare the Russell Wilson of now compared to what he was 10 years ago in Seattle. That's just. It's wrong. I mean, the only quarterbacks you can really compare to 10 years prior to that were the likes of Tom Brady, the likes of Peyton Manning, the goats of this game. Aaron Rodgers wasn't the same quarterback as he was 10 years previous in Green Bay when he was with the Jets. So, it's always going to be that he's going to have lost a little bit with age. Like I said, the only two really you can think of, maybe even Drew Brees, probably the third one. They're the top three you think of where they almost seem to get better with age. Apart from that, you're always going to expect someone with I think Wilson's 36, 37.
Yeah.
So he's coming to the end of his career. He's in the twilight of his career, so he's not going to be that guy that we saw in Seattle. But he's definitely an upgrade on what we saw last year and the year before and the year before. So we can't really complain too much.
Don't underestimate what he brings to the locker room. He is a Super Bowl champion. His personality, his positivity, his experiences, the way he sort of come in and was a leader straight away. These are all things that will only help this football team. And we've shown certain points last year and definitely the year before that, if we can get in a bit of a run, like in a bit of a momentum, if we can gather some momentum, we can win those close games. We lost them last year. We won a few the year before. So we showed that, if we can get a bit of momentum, we can get in. So like I said, don't underestimate what he actually brings to the locker room as a whole.
Exactly that. All right, then moving on to running backs. 3 running backs made the roster. Again, there's no surprise in the 3 that did. Tyrone Tracy's, Devin Singletary, and Cam Scatterboo. Turbo Miller. Now, obviously, there was a lot of talk before about, obviously, he was having 4 running backs. Obviously, Eric Gray's on the pup. So it was a case of, all right, I think we all, 3 of us thought Turbo would make the roster. Myself, Shane, and Aaron all thought Turbo would make the roster. He hasn't. Obviously, we found out, obviously, he's now on the practice squad. But was it a surprise we didn't carry that 4th running back onto the roster, Kev?
A surprise? No, not really. I thought Turbo Miller, he's fast and he was he had return potential. He had a good sort of preseason as well. But I think with the construction of the roster, I think these 3 running backs were always going to be 1, 2, 3. And I thought it was a numbers game for Miller. And I also thought that it was sort of like a calculated risk, a calculated bet that, let him go and pull him back in the practice squad. Because I can see him throughout the season being elevated to be one of the return guys throughout the season as we go along. So I think it was a case of calculated risk on behalf of Dable and Sheehan that, we will cut him to get the numbers to 53, but also we can sort of stash him away in the practice squad and use him throughout the season.
It's the first time that Joe Shane hasn't had 4 running backs on his 53-man roster since he started creating rosters for the Giants. This is his 4th roster now. He's always had 4 running backs. I think one thing that you can kind of take into account with this is that last year, I cannot remember, it was Singletary, Tracy, Gray, and another running back that just escapes me right now.
Tracy, Singletary, Gray, and... Good question.
I don't think it was Miller. I think Miller was on the practice squad. I think we had another running back there. But my point is that Singletary was the lead back last year. Tracy was picked up as a running back that we thought would be okay. I think Eric Gray, we all knew what we were getting with Eric Gray, whoever this mystery 3rd man is that Kev looks like he's trying to hunt down. I just get the feeling that the Giants are a lot more comfortable having Tracy, who proved himself last year, Singletary, who's still a veteran, and Scatterboo, who is, let's face it, a much higher caliber player than Gray was last year. I just feel like they think that running back room has more star potential and more yard potential than potentially what we've had previously, where we've always had, a couple of guys who are like, yeah, that's fine sort of thing. But so I think I actually said that Miller wouldn't make it in my predictions just because of that, and that was proven right, obviously.
Yeah, looking at when he carried 3 last year.
Was it only 3 last year?
Eric Gray, Devin Singletary, Tyrone Tracy. That was on the August 28th, 2024 at 3:04 p.m. The Giants published that.
I think it might have been the first preseason, the first regular season game that we had 4. So we might end up with that again. We might end up with 4 on the roster again. Lots of things will change, won't they?
Yeah, mate. It'll fluctuate daily. It'll change daily, no doubt. But yeah, so Tyrone Tracy obviously is going to be RB1 at the moment, Singletary 2 and Scatterboo 3. Obviously, I know Scatterboo's had a little niggly injury during the preseason, so that's kind of no surprise at the moment.
Very, very quick tangent. Last year we didn't declare any cornerback, safeties, or edge guys. Last year we just had linebackers, D-line, and DBs.
Interesting. Jakob Johnson was the other back.
The ghost of Jakob Johnson.
The yo-yo man.
Fucking doing the okey-dokey.
In, out, shake it all about. Come on. Wide receivers then. Joe Shane has traditionally gone with 6 there or thereabouts, and he's gone with 6 this year as well. Obviously, Neighbours, Slayton, Wandell, and Hyatt all made it. Gunner had made it, but has now been waived due to other signings. So we'll come on to those signings in a bit. But I think the one that's probably surprised some of us, and I think has surprised a lot of people, is Bo Collins. And now, Kev, obviously, you can tell us about Bo Collins, can't you, Kev? But I think, is he the next Victor Cruz?
No, he drops the ball too much. But
come on, man.
He definitely has some good attributes, and he's been there, and he was always he's reliable in the sense that he runs the right routes, he has the right timing, he catches the ball most of the times, and he's just a little bit more reliable than the other receivers. I mean, at the moment we've got 5 wide receivers on the 53-man roster, which is just crazy to think. And surely we need to get another one on there, but obviously Olszewski should be up and down. Maybe he might be this year's yo-yo man, coming up and down for every game. But Bo Collins, fair play to him though. He made the roster. A lot of people didn't think he would. A lot of people had other players making the roster. Free agent signings, undrafted players also played well. But is it me, or does that wide receiver group just miss a little something?
As Holty put on screen there, bar Neighbours, it's a little bit squeaky bum time for receivers, I think. And I think I mentioned this after we'd done our positional groups. I said I'm a little bit concerned by a receiver corps. With 5 on the roster as it stands, I'm not sold on it. Don't get me wrong, Slayton and Wandell and Slayton and those top 3. Okay, cool. Outside of those, Jaden Hyatt, unproven, has done nothing so far. And now Bo Collins, unproven, undrafted rookie free agent. We need some for someone else on that roster. Whether that's Gunner, whether that's another member of the practice squad that we'll come on to. Whether we have more of a presence from our tight ends.
Well, let me just ask this question. Craig, do you think that a player like Gabe Davis or a Odell Beckham Jr. would add something to this wide receiver group?
Yeah, I do. I do worry about injuries with both, though. Gabe Davis has now visited us. He had recent visits with the Bills and I think the Steelers as well. And he's still not being picked up. And I know Dan Duggan was asked about it, and Duggan was like, well, there's clearly some kind of health concern because he's still without a team. And, a good fit Gabe Davis is probably better than, I would say, at least one wide receiver on 90% of these teams. So you're probably going to want to pick him up. After everything that's gone on, you probably end up getting him for cheap. Beckham, I think, would improve the room, but not from an on-field perspective of himself. I think he would improve the room by being able to coach other players. It's whether he wants to do that. He might not want to do that. I do think that, and we're going to obviously go on to tight ends in a minute, I do think we are going to see a lot more of a receiving impact from our tight ends this year, which is hilarious considering the Giants are notorious for underutilising their tight ends. And I'm pretty sure that Russell Wilson is also notorious for not targeting his tight ends as much as he does his other players. So it's going to be an interesting one.
So could you see sort of more 12 personnel, like one running back, 2 tight ends, but say someone like Theo Johnson detached from a line and more like a big slot type?
You look at Johnson, you look at Fedoni, and they're both big wide receivers, aren't they? They're big. They are. Johnson probably does a bit more than Fedoni in the terms of blocking, probably a bit more well-rounded, and that's the reason that he is tight end one. Manhurts is obviously Manhurts, Bellinger. Actually, I'm going to throw it to Shane. Shane, you had a point about Bellinger. We were talking about this yesterday.
Yeah. So obviously I've seen Dave Sorensen had tweeted yesterday afternoon, basically just saying that the Giants turned down a trade for Dan Bellinger and cut Greg Dulcich rather than keeping Dulcich and acquiring an extra draft pick in 2026. Now, I just said to Craig, this could be a topic of conversation for tomorrow, because what would you rather have, if you put yourself in Joe Shane's shoes, would you rather have kept Dulcich and traded Bellinger, who he realistically is he going to be signed to an extension this year, but got an extra draft pick, or would you rather have kept Danny B, knowing that you've kind of not really seen anything out of him? Let's face facts, since he had that eye injury against Jacksonville in his rookie year. And then the same argument could also potentially be made for a Jalen Hyatt, because I think, was it Dulcich, Hyatt, and one other was linked with trade talks?
Tommy.
Yeah, that's it, Tommy DeVito. So I don't know what you guys think on that. Would you rather get that draft pick and maybe swap players around?
I'll leave this one for Kev. Kev's the tight end man.
Yeah, so yes and no. I mean, that obviously, first of all, it's cost cutting as well. I mean, Dulcich was on the roster for about 1.5 million, and Bellinger's on for nearly 4 million. So obviously, you would lose all his salary. We'll save some money there. They're similar age. Dulcich was still only 25, something like that.
Yep.
Bellinger's 24, 25. But I think the reason why they wanted to keep him is because they're very different style of tight ends. Whereas Dulcich is your detached receiving tight end, which he showed in preseason. He went out there and made the catches he was supposed to make, and caught the touchdown passes he was supposed to catch. But Bellinger is very much used as sort of a pseudo fullback, H-back, on the move blocker in the run game and stuff like that. He sort of leaks out from that fullback position to run routes and catch the ball as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I think with them deciding that they would, spoiler alert, release Chapman, the sort of he was an awesome fullback from some of the things he was doing in preseason. I think they wanted to keep Bellinger for his versatility more than anything. But if you ask me as a fan, I probably would have looked at trading Bellinger, because Bellinger, I don't think, unless he comes back very cheap next year, this is the final year of his rookie deal.
And also, I think when we were talking about Dulcich, when we were going through the positional groups as well earlier in the preseason, let's not forget he played with Russell Wilson in Denver. So this is why the move to let him go surprised me, because he played so well in the preseason. Plus, he had that link with Russell Wilson anyway. So it did take me by surprise a little bit that he got cut. And I mean, I think he can be a decent tight end for any team out there that decides to pick him up. It didn't quite work out for him in Denver, but I do think he can be a decent tight end. Obviously, the four we've got on a roster: Theo Johnson, Dan Bellinger, Chris Manhurts, and Thomas Fedone. Again, 7th round rookie on the roster. It's pretty good, right? And obviously, Manhurts being that blocking tight end, Bellinger, like you've spoken about, Kev. Theo Johnson, we need to see more from him this season. How much are we going to see from Fedone this season? I don't know. But they're 4 decent tight ends that I'm happy with. But I think Dan Bellinger is the only question mark out of those 4 at the moment. Fedone, granted, yeah, because he's a rookie, but I am surprised that Bellinger's still on the roster and Dulcich isn't. That was kind of like one of the biggest surprises for me out of the cuts that were made.
I mean, there's been a rumour going around today that Theo Johnson's potentially got an injury of some sort because he's not been seen on practice the last couple of days. Now, if that is the case, then you'd imagine that the Giants are obviously confident it's nothing too serious, because if it was, surely then Dulcich would have been more in play to be kept. But I think he's not been seen for a couple of days in practice, and I don't think he dressed on Thursday, and he didn't dress the week before. I potentially want to say.
But
Yeah, that's not a good sign.
no, you're right. But also don't forget, like I think Dable has shown, especially this preseason, that anyone with anything at all, any type of niggle, discomfort, you got out of bed the wrong side in the morning, he's been resting them. I mean, he's just been overly cautious because he wants his starting players for when week 1 comes around. So if they're holding them back a little bit, it's not ideal. Don't get me wrong, but I do think they've been overcautious with injuries this offseason.
Yeah, I think the fact that we've not seen there's certain players on the roster we haven't seen at all from this preseason. I think maybe in the past we haven't been cautious enough with injuries. So maybe like now's a good time to start being a bit more cautious. But yeah, the tight end room isn't looking too bad. There are still question marks, like I said, over Dan Bellinger, but we'll see what happens. Moving on to Aaron's forte. Obviously, he's not here, but we'll go through the offensive line anyway. Joe Shane, on average, has had 9 offensive linemen on his rosters. He's gone for 10 this year, so 1 more than average. Obviously the names we all expected: Thomas Illuminor, Runyon, JMS, Evan Neal. Yes, he was expected to be on there. Greg Van Roten, Hudson, Bowe. The 2 that are on there that none of us predicted: Austin Schlottman and Aaron Stinney. And the one that's not on there that we all predicted would be Jake Kubas. And out of those 3, are you surprised? Well, I think the fact that none of us picked any of them, Schlottman and Stinney, you surprised those 2 made it over Kubas, or have those 2 showed more of a presence in preseason, Craig?
I think with these, it's just a case of, this is bottom of the roster stuff. I think Stinney was better than Kubas in that final preseason game. Kubas is still a bit more of a project. I think if you cut Stinney and put him onto free agency or waivers, he doesn't make it onto your practice squad, whereas Kubas does, which is why they did it. Mm-hmm. And Schlottman's there because Azudu should be, but Azudu's on IR, so it's pretty clean cut, that one.
Yeah, obviously, I would expect, obviously, once Azudu comes back, then no doubt probably Schlottman will go. But obviously, with Azudu's injury, how long is it until he comes back? Obviously, he's on IR for at least the first 4 weeks. Again, do we rush him back, or do we be a bit more cautious with him and let him sort of fully rehab and fully recover from his injury?
It was nice to see him play quite well at guard instead of being, forced out to tackle like he's been pigeonholed since he's come into the league. He actually looked like, a decent backup guard in the league when he got his snaps this year.
Yeah, true that. All right, so that's the offense. On to the defense then. Defensive lineman, we've gone for 6. Dex, Nacho, which clearly surprised Shane and Kev because they didn't predict Nacho would be on the roster. DJ Davidson, Roy Robertson Harris, Darius Alexander, and his first name escapes me, but Golston. Why can I not think of his first name? Chauncey Golston, that's the one. I mean, I know
listed as a D lineman.
I know you dropped his name in there a little while ago, Kev, but I think it was probably the biggest surprise out of the lot, the fact that Chapman didn't make it. What do you reckon to that, Shane?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think I want to say we all had Chapman making it. I actually feel like a bit sorry for him as well in a way, because it's kind of like UDFA showed glimpses last year. Didn't seem that bad this year. There was a preseason game where he was mic'd up as well, and he seems like a bit of a hype man. And then it's kind of like the terminator said to him in preseason, "Oh, we're going to get you going full back as well." And he seems like he just sort of got his head down with it, got on with it, literally got his head down with it because he kept smashing and destroying face masks. And then it's kind of like, see you later. And I suppose it just shows what kind of a cutthroat business it is. I mean, personally, I'd love to, whether it's 12 months down the line or whatever, hear like genuine reasons as to why a player was cut, not just because, oh, he did some good things, but we tried to go a different way. Like, I want more than that. Like, I know why.
Just very quickly, I think the reason he just, as a numbers game, we have too many 3-techs and not enough nose tackles. And Shane, you said that. You said it because you picked DJ Davison to make it because of the only nose tackle we had was Sexy Dexy. And I think Davison sort of took his spot. The simple fact is he's the nose tackle and Chapman is a small 3-tech.
I think it was the equipment guys asked for Chapman to be cut because they couldn't afford replacing his face mask every 2 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, just a quick one for you guys. Do you think the Giants are managing their cap sensibly? When you take into account what you could save getting rid of Bellinger, what you could save in getting rid of Nacho. Not saying you should do it, but Gano is on for a decent amount of money this year, 36 years old, coming off a couple of injury hit seasons. Like, are the Giants maybe? I don't want to use the word mismanaging, but could they be managing the cap a little bit better than what? Let's say if we were playing Madden, I know it's a football game, but we'd cut their asses.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I said this earlier on in the off-season. Joe Shane is too loyal to certain people and won't cut them. We've been here before. Joe Shane, for me, is still not ruthless enough to turn around and say, "Are you worth the money that we're currently paying you?" You cannot tell me that having Nacho and Roy Robertson Harris on the roster at the same time is cost effective. When personally, I think I've already seen more from Robertson Harris than I have seen from Nacho this preseason versus the whole of last season.
Yep, I agree.
You're right with Bellinger. We've already discussed the fact that we turned down the trade offer for him. Jude looked really good in the preseason.
Yep.
But kicker is a horrible, horrible position to replace during a season if somebody gets the jitters. And Gano is a trusted leg. What I don't think we've seen enough from him, and he's done it, but we haven't seen it so far, are pay cuts. Cuts.
There's gonna have to be some restructures as well. Because I think what was posted in the group earlier, what's our cap number at the moment?
We're 2.2 million over the cap space. When you look at it from a 53-man roster, obviously at the moment it shows we've got 4 million space, but we don't. They're only taking into account the 51, and it also doesn't take into account little other bits of money like practice squad, dead money from UDFAs where we gave them money and we've ended up not keeping them. It's little things like that. So yeah, but I do also think, there is an argument maybe to say that we should go down the Cleveland route, where Cleveland manage their cap. They're able to free up money quite consistently, and they're always able to sign players for big money. They've got Watson on this ridiculous contract. They've got Myles Garrett there. That they're able to find money around because they push it into the future. And I feel like Joe Shane is too scared to push money into the future, knowing full well that cap is going up and up and up and up and has done for years. So you are right in a way, Shane. I don't think it's mismanagement. I just don't think he's being savvy enough. He's not being smart enough.
I think it also is an element of he's trying to stay close to the wire this year, because don't forget we've got like 22.2 million in dead money on Daniel Jones, and we've got 5 million dead money on Darren Waller that we're paying out of this year. Also there's 5.3 million on injured reserve players, but obviously next season currently stands. team cap space is very, very healthy. So it'll be interesting to see, and that's because he hasn't pushed too much money into the future. So I think it's a little bit both. I think it's like he's been too cautious, but he's also trying to make sure he doesn't mortgage the future.
And I think we all spoke about Nacho again when we were going through the positional groups, that we'd be surprised if he was still on the roster, and he is still on the roster, and he's commanding a decent salary, and it almost does beg the question as to why. Because, like you said, we've probably seen more from Roy Robertson Harris than we have from Nacho. So, yeah, and we just hope that Nacho turns up and actually shows why he's on the roster this year. Three players listed as edge. No surprises there. Brian Burns, Kayvon Thibodeau, and Shane's boy Abdul Carter. Linebackers, Shane on average has had 5, and he's stuck with his average of 5 this year. Bobby O, Michael McFadden, CJ Board, Darius Musau, and I mean, I'd never really even heard of this guy before, but Mr. Flanagan Fowles, that Aaron predicted would be on the 53-man roster. Was he a surprise to anyone? Shane, was he a surprise to you?
Not in the sense of, obviously he's there for his special teams play at the end of the day. That's all he's there for. He's kind of, this year's Cam Brown, so to speak. He's there purely for his special teams play. Surprised when maybe you looked at the other players that had been cut at other positions. Yeah, you could argue, but they always turn around and say, especially for guys who are like UDFAs and late draft picks, if you can't play special teams, you're not going to make your way onto the team.
Yeah. Craig, were you surprised he made it ahead of Deontay Johnson?
No, not really, because Deontay Johnson, as much as he flashed last preseason, really didn't stand out this preseason. And he's not a name, is he? He's not a household name. He's not been there, done that. He's never really contributed on. Well, Shane's 3 million tackles and 45,000 forced fumbles or whatever it was.
Matt owes me 150 tackles somewhere along the line.
You're probably more likely to get that in fishing than anywhere else now. But yeah, I mean, Flanagan Fowles is a special teamer, and it's nice to actually see that we're keeping all special teamers on there. The only problem is obviously you look at Bobby O, McFadden, and then Musau. Where are your players who can contribute on defense behind that? But yeah, I'm okay with it. Deontay Johnson didn't show anything during preseason that said keep him around, and he hasn't been signed to the practice squad yet, so that kind of says a lot. He was an early cut.
Yeah, he was one of the earliest cuts, and the fact he's not been signed to the practice squad kind of says that he's not going to be around this season at all. Cornerbacks then. No surprises with Paulson Adebo, Tay Banks, Cordell Flott, Drew Phillips, Corey Black, although he has since been waived again to make way for another sign-in, which we'll go into in a second. And Nick Jones. Now, Kev, you had Nick Jones in your projected 53. You were the only one that did. So why do you think Nick Jones made the roster ahead of Trey Hawkins?
Position. I mean, he is solely a slot corner. I thought that Flott was pushing Banks, and exactly what we talked about before. I thought Flott was pushing Banks to start, and if Flott became a starter, then you wouldn't have him covering the slot as well. So I thought I'd put Nick Jones in there.
Nice. And obviously, like I said, Trey Hawkins didn't make it. Myself, Kev, Shane, and Craig, all four of us, we all predicted that he would make the roster, and he didn't. I think, was that a surprise that he didn't, Shane?
Not really. I mean, like I said, we made these predictions before a snap of pre-season. If you look at it, he didn't really do anything in pre-season to justify as to why he should be contention. It seemed like a long time ago now from when he was drafted and he was getting first team reps in practice and even on the field against Dallas when he absolutely got torched and got took out and kind of never really recovered from that. And obviously, he's had a few injuries as well, but he didn't show anything in pre-season to justify why. And I think if we all did our 53-man again before today of the last 3 games, he probably won't be in any of our 53s, or he might have squeezed into, say, one person's just because they needed to add a cornerback.
Yeah. And then the last name on the list that none of us predicted, Art Green.
Art did actually. He showed up during preseason. I think that's the difference. You need to show up during preseason. There is only so much you can do in training camp. You need to do it in live football. It might be watered down because of the quality of player out there, but Art Green showed himself. I do think we're still a little heavy maybe on the cornerback, so maybe one of Jones or Green might not stick around by game week 1, but just wait and see.
Exactly that. Craig, do you want to talk us through our new signing?
Yeah, so the Giants were awarded 2 players on waivers today, and it has been confirmed as per Joe Shane's presser earlier today that they were the only 2 waiver requests that were put in. So there were no other players that they had asked for. So we did not lose anyone to the Browns or the Titans. So the first of these is Rico Payton. He started his college career in 2018 at Southern Illinois, where he redshirted before transferring to Pittsburgh State. He then spent 5 years with the Gorillas. That's right, the Gorillas. Appearing in 35 games with 64 tackles, 26 passes defended, 5 interceptions, and he also earned a 2023 NCAA Division II second team All-American honors from the AFCA. Just so you're aware at how hard it is to try and find any information on Rico Payton. None of his stats are on PFF because the Pittsburgh State Gorillas don't exist, apparently. Dane Brugler had him rated at his 81st best cornerback in the 2024 draft. So obviously he was not highly touted coming out of college. But last season he was signed by the Saints as an undrafted rookie free agent and made it onto their 53-man roster. He ended up appearing in 16 games, but literally 90% of his snaps were on special teams. He did have 12 total tackles on special teams, so obviously one to keep an eye on.
Nice. Rico Payton. Does Anna have anything to say on Rico Payton, the fact that he was on the Saints last year?
No.
Does she even know he existed?
Probably not, no.
Rico Payton don't know that he exists.
There's clearly no information on him. But yeah, interesting. All right, then not lastly, but moving on to safeties. No surprise in Javon Holland, Tyler Nubin, and Dane Belton. The one that did make it that not all of us predicted that did make it. Sorry, that everyone predicted bar myself. So thanks very much. I'll take that. And we've got a new signing at safety as well. So Craig, want to go into Bo Braid?
Bo Braid, yeah. A lot easier to find information on Bo Braid. Spent his collegiate career with Maryland, playing from 2020 to 2023. He recorded 1 sack, 7 hurries, 134 solo tackles, 34 assisted, 3 forced fumbles, and 3 interceptions during his 4 seasons. Obviously, one of those being the COVID season that was cut short. He was also named a team captain in 2023, so obviously well thought of. Dane Brugler had him rated as his 12th best safety in the 2024 draft, noting that he needed to be more consistent as a ball hawk and tackle finisher, but he was confident. He had a cerebral trigger, whatever that means, and an athletic mentality as his promising traits. He had all the tools for an interchangeable nickel safety role and will play special teams from day one. The Ravens signed him as an undrafted rookie free agent, and he did not play special teams from day one. He didn't appear until week 8, but he did appear in 11 games, predominantly on special teams. He had 3 total tackles. bear in mind as well, he's just been the understudy for Kyle Hamilton, who's just got an absolute payday today, and arguably the best safety in football at the moment. So not a bad person to learn from. Kev, Shane, I know you both had him on your rankings for 2024's draft.
Yeah, I had him as my 9th best safety in that in that draft. I think his 40 let him down a bit, and that's why sort of he dropped a bit. I think he had a 4.68 and a lot of people sort of like were a bit iffy about that. But he went to the Senior Bowl, and I thought he played well at the Senior Bowl. I liked his Maryland tape, so yeah, I thought he would be a early 4th round pick for me is where I had him. So I'm very pleased to sort of get him on the roster now.
Yeah, I had him as safety 10 last year. Like I said, the speed is kind of something that kind of stands out, that kind of lets him down. And to be honest, I imagine he's predominantly coming onto us basically as a safety 4, but mainly to impact special teams.
Nice, but I mean, like you said, like what a great guy to learn from, Kyle Hamilton, because best safety in the league to learn from. He must be doing something right. Moving on to the specialists, no surprise, Graham Gano, Jamie Gillan, and Casey Kreiter. I do want to touch on Jude though, because I think, I mean, obviously we know he's back on the practice squad, but I think, like you mentioned earlier, Craig, I think he's shown. I think personally, I saw progress in him and in his kicking ability, and I think it's only a matter of time before we see him making the roster ahead of Graham Gano, and I think that could be next season. I really do.
I think there'll be a kicker battle next season, but it won't involve Graham Gano.
It's his contract, isn't it? So I would love to see Jude as our kicker, and I'm sure you would as well, Kev, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and just to note that this is his last year where he will get the international exemption, and they get it for 2 years in the practice squad. So his last year he'll get that. But I mean, like I said, a perfect case scenario is let Graham come in this season. You're paying him an awful lot of money. He has shown consistency in practices and stuff like that. Let him go out there. And then Jude will be sort of primed. Then it'd be 24, 25 come next season. He's had 2 full seasons with the team, learning behind a very good kicker of how to, train your body, how to practice every day, stuff like that. And I think, it just would make perfect sense for him to be looked at more next season.
Future's bright for Jude, put it that way. Craig, practice squad then. Run us through the names that are confirmed so far.
Yeah, let's quickly just address the elephant in the room in the terms of Greg Dulcich. It was reported earlier that he had signed with the practice squad, and then Joe Shane had his presser and didn't name him in that list. And then about 5 minutes later, Palacero puts out that he'd signed with the Dolphins practice squad. So obviously he is not coming back. Dante Miller, Little Jordan Humphreys, Emir Smith-Marset. That's the only reason there's no black band on today, because he's back. Brian Hudson, Jake Kubas, Eliza Chapman, Jordan Riley, Eliza Garcia, Trace Ford, who we all said did really well during the preseason. It's nice to see him back. Timon Fox is back there as well. D. Williams, Raheem Lane, and Jude McTamanay. But obviously Jude gets the exemption. So I think by my maths, there's about 5 spots left for the practice squad. It'd be interesting to see if any of the rookies come in. I still think Makari Page. That's like the biggest surprise to me yet. That Page hasn't quite made it on there. But we'll see what happens over the next few days. Obviously, Gunnar Olszewski was cut earlier to make way for Rico Payton. So there is a potential that he ends up, or he probably will end up on there because he's a veteran. And then obviously Corey Black was also waived. So there's a chance that if he clears waivers, because he's subject to waivers, which he probably will, he'll end up on there. So that probably only leaves about 3 spaces left on there.
Nice. And I'm sure we'll find out who those are in the next sort of 24, 48 hours, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So watch this space. We'll bring you the latest when we've got it. All right. So yeah, that's our 53-man roster plus the majority of our practice squad. I'm just looking forward to the season starting now, boys. I can't wait. I really, really, really cannot wait. And I can't believe we are only a week away from regular season football. Thank God. There is, it's on the horizon. We're this close. But yeah, that was a good one tonight. We covered a lot, covered the whole roster. And it's off the back of pre-season, it's looking quite positive. So, looking forward to getting going next Sunday. Unfortunately, though, that is all we have time for this evening. We'll be back next Wednesday at the usual time with our first preview pod of the season, as we'll be taking a deeper look at those Washington Commanders. So make sure you tune in then. Anything else to add before we go, guys?
No, just good talking. Obviously, you kind of think about it now. We've done all we've done the free agent stuff, we've done draft stuff, we've done camp stuff, we've done positional breakdowns, we've done pre-season. So like kind of, you look to next week, and next week kind of where business season starts for us in a sense, where every episode from here on out is going to be reviews and previews. Hopefully longer than October, November. We don't want that tank train to get departing too early, but we'll have to kind of wait and see.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the next podcast is a regular season preview podcast. I mean, it seems so far away, in the off season, but that's what we've got next week, lads. And yeah, super excited. I think we've got the crux of our 53-man roster now. Maybe a few little tinkering here and there, but I just really want to go out and smash those commies.
Yeah. It's the last week with just one podcast. Next week, and then we're into the doubles, back into the doubles. So be prepared to see our faces more often than than usual. And also, with the start of the season, also means that we'll be doing tweets. We'll be tweeting along with the games, so keep an eye out on the socials for that. We've got our meetup, obviously, in October as well, after the international series games are out of the way. So plenty to come.
Plenty to come indeed. Yeah, last preseason pod done and dusted. Looking forward to getting into the thick of it and getting into the first game next Wednesday. Obviously, check out all our socials for the latest news. Follow the links in the description to find where we are, and give this episode a big thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't done already. Hit the bell to be notified of when we're going live. Give us a 5-star review on your podcast platform of choice as well, because we appreciate the love. Thanks everyone watching and listening for getting involved in the comments this evening. We really appreciate it as usual. Pre-season, off-season, completed, mate. Regular season, here we come. My thanks as ever go to Shane, Kev and Craig for joining me. We are signing off. Until next time, let's go Giants.